Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fundamentals. My name is Joan. In this training, we're going to work through the process of completing a project and presenting to our clients. We'll work through the entire design process, learning how each one of the stages work, how the shapes work, and how to navigate through a 2D and 3D environment. Let's get started. We'll start by opening the software. We just need to double-click on the software icon on our desktop. The software will open to the home screen. That's the screen I'm sharing with you now. Open a new project or an existing project on the left side of your screen. We want to open a new project. When we click on New Project, we go to our New Project Information screen. This is where we name our project. Left-click in Project Name and name this project Fundamentals. If this were a working project, we'd fill out our client information and have it easy to access. We're going to go down and click on Start Project. This will take us to Stage 1, Project Information. Let's talk about the interface first. First, we see the grid in the middle. The grid size is 853 feet by 853 feet of drawing space. On the right side, we have our panel menu. In the panel menu, we have different tools and settings for each one of the stages. At the top, we have the application bar. We'll cover those before we start drawing. In this stage, you'll notice that we don't have any drawing tools. This stage is mainly used for bringing in outside resources and setting up your environment. We can work with GIS imagery, background images, AutoCAD files, and 3D images. If you want to learn more about any of these outside resources, you can go to the top of the panel menu and left-click on the question mark. Here you'll find detailed and illustrated instructions in the Help pages. The Help page information corresponds to the stage that you're in. Let's go down in the panel menu and set up our environment. We're going to left-click on the drop-down arrow to see what the options are. I'm going to choose mountains. You can choose whatever you want. You want to choose what's realistic for the environment where you are. Next, we're going to go to the top of the panel menu and locate the Next Stage button. Click on the Next Stage button, and that takes us to Stage 2, House. In this stage, we want to make the house look as much like our client's house as possible. Before we begin drawing our house, we want to look in the application bar and make sure that our settings are set correctly in our grid, in our snaps, and in our hide and unhide at the top of your screen. In the application bar, first we're going to look at the grid setting. Left-click on the word grid, and from the grid setting options, choose 1 foot. Left-click on that 1 foot grid option. That'll be a great fit for what we're doing with our larger geometric shapes, like a house shape. Next, slide over to your snaps. Left-click on snaps to see the settings for your snaps and constraints. We want all of our snaps on from point down to auto adjust arcs, except for center point. We can turn that off. Next, look down at your angle snaps. We want our angle snap set at relative. That means that our drawing tools are going to rotate or snap every 45 degrees. That makes drawing geometric shapes really fast and easy because the system is going to keep those lines straight for us. If we have our angle snap set at none, your drawing tools move freely, and you have to work a little bit harder to draw straight lines. So relative is a great fit for what we're going to do today. Below that, you have some additional drawing display options. Smart, we can turn off for now, but we'll turn it back on later. Autocomplete, we'll leave on. I'll show you how that works when we have an example to look at. Go ahead and left-click away from those options and slide over to your hide and unhide. We don't really have anything to hide yet, but down at the bottom, we have our guides and measurements. In your measurement display options, choose selected measurements. That will minimize the amount of measurements that we're seeing. and we'll only see the dimensions for shapes that we currently have selected. Go ahead and click away from your Hide and Unhide menu. And we have some additional display options in our configuration menu. We can locate those from our Application button in the top left-hand corner of our screen. Left-click on the Application button to see a drop-down list of options. Go down to Configurations and click on Configurations to open your Configurations window. These are background settings. There are tabs going across the top. You can choose General, 3D, Library, Smart, Vendors, Media, 2D Interaction, a list of your shortcuts or hotkeys, and spell check. We're just going to look at 2D Interaction. When you click on 2D Interaction, you see some measurement size options at the top. The drawing size can be set to small, large, or extra large. I'm going to choose large. Snaps can also be set to small, medium, or large. I'm going to go with large on that as well. To the right of that, you have grab handle size. This is referring to the modification points on a shape. I like mine set to large. Especially for training, if you're looking at my screen, I want you to be able to see those modification points easily. And yours will be easier to see if you set them to large as well. You can also come back into the configuration menu at any time and adjust those settings to your liking. Now, at the bottom right-hand corner of the configuration menu, if you've made any changes, you want to click Apply to apply those changes. And then you want to click OK. I'm finished with the configuration menu. Now we're ready to begin drawing our house shape. To begin drawing, we'll go to the top of the panel menu to our toolbar. If you hover your cursor over the icon for the tool, you'll get a description of what that tool does, and then in parentheses you'll see a letter, and that's the key on your keyboard that will activate that tool. That's your shortcut or your hotkey. We want to activate the line tool. So left-click on the line tool, bring your cursor over into your drawing space. You'll see the little line tool icon. We're just going to begin drawing in the middle of the grid. That's a good habit to get into. If you begin drawing in the middle of the grid, it's really convenient to see your shape, because when you go into the 3D environment, the camera's looking at the middle of the terrain, which is equal to the middle of the grid. So we can just begin drawing where the system puts us when we open a new project. We're going to left-click to begin drawing with the line tool, and we're going to draw to the right 20 feet. As you move your cursor to the right, you'll see how far you've drawn. When you get to 20 feet, left-click, and that will establish your first line segment. So that indicates one wall of the house. Now, it's really important that we close our shape. And what I mean by close our shape is I need to draw all the way around the house, drawing all the dimensions, until I'm back to where I started. I left-click on the point where I began, and that will complete my shape, and my shape will render a 3D house when I go into the 3D environment. So now I'm going to navigate just a little bit, and we do that with our middle scroll wheel. If you roll your middle scroll wheel away from you, you're zooming into the grid. If you roll your middle scroll wheel towards you, you're zooming out. And if you press down on your middle scroll wheel like a button, you're going to activate the pan tool. See the little white hand on your cursor? You're going to just drag your grid over to the left so we have room to continue drawing to the right. So zooming and panning is with your middle scroll wheel. Now we're going to continue drawing. We're going to come down 6 feet and left click. We're going to come over to the right 20 feet and left click. Up 6 feet, left click. And to the right 26 feet and left click. So I've drawn the back of the house. The back of the house has a little bump out. we're now drawing up the right side of the house 74 feet. So that's a longer line segment. I may want to either zoom out or pan down or both. I can roll my scroll wheel toward me to zoom out, press down on my middle scroll wheel like a button to pan down. That's going to give me enough room to draw up 74 feet. Now when you're drawing, you can drag your line the distance that you want to establish and left click to complete that line segment, but you can also type in the value. And I want to look at that on this longer line segment. All I need to do is to take the line the direction that I want it to go. I want to go straight up, and I want the length of that wall to be 74 feet. So I'm just going to look at my keyboard, and on my number pad, I'm going to type in 74. Automatically shows a 74-foot display. Now I'm going to press enter, and that is going to enter that value and complete my line segment. So that's another option for drawing. You'll just do whatever is your preference. Okay, now we're going to draw to the left 20 feet and left click. Down 10 feet and left click. To the left 22 feet, left click. Up 6 feet, left click. To the left 24 feet, left click. Now when you get to 24 feet and you move your cursor, you're going to see a dashed line attached to where you began drawing. This is called the auto close feature. If you see that, that is a system reading a path to where you can close your shape. See how it connects to the 20-foot line segment? If I know that that's how I want to complete my shape, I can press enter and it will auto-complete my shape. So it's just a way for the system to suggest that this is a path for closing your shape. If you drag the line down and left click, that closes your shape as well. Or again, if you press enter, autocomplete will complete your shape for you. But it's really important that you assess your shape and make sure that it's a complete shape. When you move your cursor away from that shape, you should no longer have a yellow line following your cursor. You've got your line tool, so you could draw another house, but we've completed the shape and we've met our objective. Now I'm going to look over at my panel menu, and at the top of my panel menu, I'm going to left click on my Move tool. That's a good habit to get into. When you're finished drawing, switch to the Move tool so you don't inadvertently begin drawing something else. Now we're going to go into the 3D environment and see our house rendered in 3D. Go to the top of your grid, and in the application bar, you're looking for the 2D, 3D toggle. Left click on the 3D toggle, and that will take us into our 3D environment. You'll see the camera looking down at the house. The house will be selected and outlined and highlighted. You'll also see the gizmo on your house. The gizmo is the Move tool for the 3D environment. When a shape is selected, you'll automatically have the gizmo so that you can move that shape. Now we want to learn how to navigate in the 3D environment. It's just a little bit different than the 2D environment. When you're in 3D, the zoom function is your right mouse button. Hold down your right mouse button and slide your mouse towards you and away from you. You can zoom in or out holding down your right mouse button and sliding your mouse forward or backward. Now hold down your left mouse button to change the angle that you're seeing the house. When you hold down your left mouse button and move your mouse forward, you're looking at the house from an eye level perspective. If you left click and move your mouse towards you, you're looking at your house from a bird's eye perspective. So left clicking and holding down your left mouse button changes the angle and also rotates your perspective. So you can see the side of the house, the front of the house. Remember, the back of the house is where we drew the bump out. And that's where we're going to spend most of our time accessorizing, adding doors, windows. Important also to know here is that the client has an existing covered patio, which is a really common thing for houses to have. Some kind of shaded area, covered porch, covered patio. So here we're going to learn how to modify the roof line so that we have that roof coming out and creating that shaded covered area. Look in the panel menu and you'll see in your House tab that you have the house sort of separated into 3 different categories, 3 different parts of the house. The overall house settings, the full roof settings, which are just the roof, and then roof section settings for when you have a section of roof selected. Look at your overall house settings. The defaulted height of a house is 10 feet. You see the icons next to height indicate a 1-story house equal to 10 feet, a 2-story house equal to 20 feet, and then the next icon over indicates roof only. That's a house shape that doesn't have any walls. It's just a roof. You might use that for a covered shaded area. When you look at the height value, we have ours defaulting to 10 feet, but we want the height of our house to be 11 feet. So we're going to left click on the up arrow next to feet and change that to 11 feet. Down below that, we have options for making the interior of the house look more realistic, like having a ceiling on, or looking down at the bottom and turning foundation on so that we have a floor when we're inside the house looking at the view of the pool or the landscaping. Next, we're going to click on Full Roof and see the settings for Full Roof. You have the toggle for turning your roof line on or off. You have the pitch of the roof. Let's change the pitch of the roof from 7/12 to 6/12. The overhang of the roof will leave at the defaulted 1-foot overhang. We'll leave our fascia and our soffit turned on. We'll set the height of our fascia to 8 inches, the thickness to 6 inches, and then we'll leave our ridge hip caps on. Now I'm going to zoom into the back of the house, and I'm going to put my cursor over the roof line. Moving my cursor over the roof line, I can see that each one of the roof sections is highlighted in blue, and that helps me determine what is a roof section that I can manipulate independently. Okay, so if I need to select a section of roof so that I can make a modification to it, I need to left click on that section and highlight it in white. When I have my cursor over the bottom left-hand corner of the house, I see that section of roof outlined in blue, but when I left click on it, it turns white, and that's really important. That means that that section of roof is isolated and selected, and I'm just going to work with it independently. Now I'm going to look over at my panel menu, and because I have that roof section selected, my panel menu House tab indicates that the roof section settings are activated. And I have a style drop-down list. I can choose what style roof I want. So I'm going to left click on that drop-down arrow, and I'm going to choose the gable roof. That's going to change that roof section from a hip pitched roof to a gable roof. But I'm not finished. I need that roof line to extend to create a covered patio area. So below the style drop-down list, I'm going to look at my overhang settings. I'm going to change the overhang from 1 foot to 17 feet. Just left click on the up arrow and apply the additional feet that's necessary. We're going to go to 17 feet. Keep clicking until you're at 17 feet, and you'll see that roof line extend out where we know that covered patio is going to be. Okay, take a look at this. You can left click and look at the sides, navigate from whatever angle you want to look at. Remember, you can pan by pressing down on your middle scroll wheel like a button. So if you want to zoom in a little bit closer to that, you can look at the next setting that we're going to change, and that's going to be adding a cantilever. So there needs to be a beam that's coming down from this open roof line. That's going to be below your gable settings in the roof section. So below style gable, you're going to see overhang was set to 17 feet, and the next setting down is cantilever. We turn that on to create the beam. If you intend to add a window to that cantilever, you want hollow turned on. If you don't intend to put a window there, you can turn hollow off. I'm going to leave the height at 0 feet 0 inches. I'm going to set the inset to 1 foot 0 inches, and that pushes the beam in 1 foot. Below that, we can turn on our roof returns, an added architectural detail that can be customized. Below the roof return settings, you can have both roof returns, the left or the right, and you can choose whether or not you want those to look hip or gable. I'm going to set mine to gable. The pitch is 6/12. The length I'm going to change to 3 feet, just makes those a little bit bigger. And the overhang I'll leave at 0 feet 0 inches. And I'm going to turn the soffit off. Okay, the next thing we need to do is add some columns to support this roof hanging over the patio. So we're going to go back into 2D, and I'll show you how to draw the columns as house shapes. Up at the top of your screen, look for your 2D, 3D toggle. Left click on your 2D toggle. Back in 2D, we want to activate our Move tool and left click away from our shape to deselect it. When you deselect a shape, your shape is no longer white. You do not see the modification points on your shape, and if you look over in your House tab, everything's grayed out. So an important part of working with the shape is selecting that shape. To select a shape, you left click on the line of the shape. When your shape is selected, you see your white lines, modification points, and the dimensions. Also look in the panel menu and you see the settings that you can apply to each part of your house. Now that we've added the overhang, I want you to notice that at the bottom left-hand corner, you've got a dashed line, and that's going to indicate the extended overhang. So that's just a roof line. No walls are there, and that's what the dashed line means. We are going to zoom in to the overhang and draw those columns. So when you want to zoom, point your cursor at the focus of your zoom. And when you roll your scroll wheel away from you, you're zooming in very specifically to where your cursor is. So the focus of your zoom is where your cursor is. We're going to draw the first column, and it's a 2 foot by 2 foot column. We're going to draw that at the bottom left-hand corner of that dashed line is going to be our site reference. So that bolder dashed line there is where I'm going to begin drawing my 2 foot by 2 foot square column. Now we could use the line tool to draw the shape all the way around and complete it, or we can use another tool called the rectangle tool. And the rectangle tool is very convenient because it makes 4-sided geometric shapes like a rectangle, but it can also make squares like the 2 by 2 square that we're going to make for our column. Activate your rectangle tool by going to your toolbar. Look at the third row of tools. You'll see the rectangle tool. Left click on the rectangle tool to activate it. If you were going to make a rectangle, you would left click and drag your tool to the desired dimensions and left click to complete your shape. When you're drawing a square, there's a prompt on your keyboard that you can activate to tell the rectangle tool to make all 4 sides even, and that's what we're going to use here. When you activate the Shift button before left clicking and dragging your rectangle tool, you'll get all 4 sides to be even. So go to the bottom left-hand corner of that dashed line, Hold your Shift key down, left click and drag up 2 feet by 2 feet, and left click to complete your shape. Now this is technically a house shape, so we've got a house shape with a roof on it, but it's the dimensions of a column. So if we set the height and remove the roof line, it's going to look like a column. So the next thing I want to do is go over to my House tab and click on House. We're going to make sure that the height of this column matches the height of the house, which is 11 feet. So we want to look and make sure that height says 11 feet, 0 inches. Then click on Full Roof and turn the roof line toggle off. Let's take a look at that in 3D. Go up to the top of your grid, click on the 3D toggle. There's a fast way to zoom into your selected shapes when you're in 3D. If you have something selected, you can press the letter B and you'll zoom into that selected shape. We're going to make one more column on the bottom right-hand side of that extended roof line. So we'll go back into 2D by clicking on the 2D toggle. Activate the rectangle tool. Go to the bottom right-hand corner of the dashed line, hold the Shift key down, then left click and drag diagonally 2 feet by 2 feet, and left click to complete your shape. This shape will automatically default to the settings of the previous shape. So we don't need to check our height, and we don't need to turn the roof line off because the system remembers what we applied to the previous shape. Take a look at that in 3D, and you should have the 2 columns. One of them is selected, so we've got the gizmo on it. If you want to deselect a shape and see what it looks like without the gizmo, without the highlighting, you can go to the top of your screen in the middle of the application bar, look for the circle with the line through it. When you left click on that, you'll deselect any and all shapes that are currently selected. It's a fast way to clear everything from being selected. So now our columns are complete. We're going to work on doors and windows. We're going to go back into 2D for that application. Click on your 2D toggle. Zoom out a little bit. I'm focusing on the back walls of the house. I'm going to add a door to the left side of the bump out and another door to the right side of the bump out. Doors are found in the template library on the left side of your screen. Go ahead and look at the left side of your screen and locate the Library tab. Left click to open it. The library is going to default to house decor. These are templates that apply to house shapes like doors and garage doors. We're going to look at the door category and left click on the drop down arrow next to the number of doors. When you left click on the drop down arrow, it exposes your subcategory list, and that's often a way to kind of itemize what you're looking at in the thumbnail pane. So if you don't want to look through all 174 plus doors, you can go down the list and choose which subcategory you want. We want to look at the door that looks most like our client's door, which is a French style 96-inch door. So I'm looking down the list. I see French style 96-inch height. I'm going to left click on the box next to that category or subcategory, and I'll see thumbnails of those different options of that style door, that height door. The one that matches our client's house is the single with panes. Now, what you can expect to happen as you insert your doors is that when you click the door that you want and insert, when you bring your cursor over, you're going to have a door attached to your cursor. Doors and windows snap on to the inside walls of the house, and then they cut through. They're programmed to do that. So they are programmed to snap onto the wall and cut through as you touch it to the inside line of the wall. So let's left click on the single with panes down at the bottom. Now that that template is selected, we have 2 options down at the bottom of the thumbnail pane to insert one item, click on Insert Selected Item one time. To insert two or more, click on Insert Selected Item multiple times. And we want 2 doors, so we'll choose Select Multiple. Now we insert multiple doors by bringing our cursor over. We have a door attached to our cursor, and as soon as our cursor touches the wall, that door is going to snap on. And I'm not measuring, I'm just kind of eyeballing and setting this on the right side of that wall. Now I'm going to go to the far right wall, the 26-foot wall. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to touch my cursor to the wall. The door's going to snap on. I'm going to left click and drop it in. And then I have one more door attached to my cursor. When I select an item and choose Insert Multiple, the system is going to continue to provide whatever it is that I have selected until I right-click to stop inserting. So when we're finished with all the doors that we need, right-click to stop inserting.